Well, hi there, and welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Real Estate Investing. I'm your host, Sharon Vornholt, and I'm so happy you're tuning in today. My guest today is Rod Khleif, and I couldn't be happier to have him on. Rod is a real estate investor. He's the owner of multiple businesses. He's an author and the host of the popular podcast, Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing, and he's a multifamily expert. So he's also an expert on mindset, goal setting, and reinvention after failure. Rod lost $50 million and then made it all back and more. So Rod and I talked a little bit before this show, and we were both around in 2008, which definitely dates us. But more importantly, in my world, in the single family world, a lot of people, a lot of small investors took a really hard hit during COVID. They are down and out. They feel like they're a failure. They just don't know how to dig out of the hole and really get the momentum back that they had. So welcome to the show, Rod.
Oh, thanks for having me, Sharon. Let's have some fun today.
Yeah, let's do. So you have such an impressive backstory. As I said, you're a multifamily superstar. So why don't you just take it away and tell everybody about your background, how you ended up in multifamily and all of it.
Sure. Well, so I'm going to go way back. So I'm an immigrant. I immigrated this country when I was 6 years old with my brother, Albert, my mother's Vantje. I was born in the Netherlands, Holland, wooden shoes, windmills, great cheese. We ended up in Denver, Colorado. And we didn't have much growing up. In fact, I remember eating expired food. We went to an expired food store. I remember drinking powdered milk with our cereal in the morning because it was cheaper than regular milk. And trust me, it sounds better than it is. I remember, wearing clothes from the Goodwill and the Salvation Army all the way through junior high school until I was tall for my age. When I was 14, I lied about my age, I have to admit, and to get a job at Burger King and flipping hamburgers so I could buy my own clothes and then ultimately buy a car. And I'm sure you've got listeners that had it harder than I did, or maybe even have it harder now, but I knew I wanted more. I just knew that I was destined for more. And I just had that desire. Napoleon Hill calls it a burning desire in his book, Think and Grow Rich. Mm-hmm. I had that. And luckily, my mom had an incredible work ethic. So my mom babysat kids, and we would always have a house full of kids. And with her babysitting money, she was a bit of an entrepreneur. Like, she invested in the stock market successfully, which I couldn't even do. I lost 20 grand the first and only time I tried. But she also invested in real estate. And so her first real estate acquisition was the house right across the street from us, from a family named the Jewels. She bought it for about $30,000 when I was about 14. And when I was 17, she told me she'd made $20,000 in her sleep, that had gone up in value 20,000. I'm like, what? You made 20 grand and you didn't do anything? Screw college, Mom. I'm getting into real estate. So I got my real estate broker's license right when I turned 18, which you could do back then with education. Now they got smart to be a broker to, you have to have some experience, but I was a broker. I could have my own office right when I turned 18. So I was going to be rich selling other people's houses. Well, my first year in real estate, I made about 8 grand. Maybe 10 grand. It's 8 to 10. And my second, this is 44 years ago. My second year, I maybe made 10 to 12 grand. But my third year, I made over $100,000. So what happened between year 2 and year 3 that caused me to 10x my income? Well, what happened was I met a guy. I was actually dating his daughter that taught me about the importance of mindset and psychology, or at least started that conversation with me. And how really 80 to 90% of your success in anything is just that, your mindset and your psychology. Only 10 to 20% is the stuff you and I talk about on our podcast, Sharon, the real estate stuff. You actually have to take action with what you learn, right? If it was just the knowledge, there'd be a bunch of wealthy librarians and college professors out there. It's the do. It's the taking that first step. It's the keep going when you get your butt kicked and your nose bloodied. It's the getting uncomfortable. We both know the comfort zone's a warm place, and we also know nothing grows there, right? So you got to get uncomfortable.
Nothing.
Right. And so, fast forward to today, I've owned 2,000 houses that I've rented long-term in 3 states. I own thousands of apartment units. In 2006, my net worth went up $17 million while I slept. Wow. And you might be like, wow. And I was like, wow. And I got a head so big, I could barely fit it through a door. I thought I was a real estate god. And when that happens, God or the universe will give you a nice little smack. Well, that was 2008 and 9. And I know you got smacked too. And not like I did, but I lost $50 million in 2008 and 9. And I thought I was set for life, and I just completely derailed. And So one of the things I'm known for on my podcast that you mentioned, and at my live events is talking about and teaching the mindset it took to have 50 million to lose in the first place. And then of course, the mindset it took to get back to the success that I'm blessed today. So, happy to drill down on that with you, Sharon, if you'd like, some of the strategies.
Yeah, I would love to, because I was listening. I always do a little bit of I call it guest stalking before I have them on. And I like to know a little bit about how they think and who they are. And I heard you say, stand guard at the door to your mindset.
That's actually a Tony Robbins quote. Yeah, that's a Tony Robbins quote. Yeah. And yeah, what that means is, there's so much crap out there right now. Don't get me started on the fake news. I mean, the news is not there to inform us. It's there to startle and scare us, and every single news agency out there is owned by Vanguard or Pfizer. Anyway, we won't go down that political rabbit hole. But the bottom line is, Vanguard and BlackRock. But the bottom line is, you got to stand guard at the door to your mind. If you're listening to, Sharon's show or watching Sharon's show, you're a leader. And right now, more than ever, the world needs leaders. And so, you've got to stand guard at the door to your mind. Bring in the good stuff. My podcast, I do these clips called Own Your Power. Even if you're not interested in multifamily, I've got hundreds of them on there. They're 5-minute clips. I will juice you if you give me 5 minutes a week and you need a shot in the arm. They're very powerful. I'm very proud of them. This week was about the power of wisdom and strategies for developing wisdom. And so I do one every week like that. And I love them. I mean, that's my favorite part of what I do, actually. And so, listen to me, or go on YouTube University and, pull motivational clips out, but bring in the good stuff. Don't get sucked into the news, because, there's something to be said for focus. And the most successful people on the planet have the most intense focus. And, but here's the thing, whatever you focus on is going to get larger, both positive or negative. Okay. So if you're focused on that crappy news, that negativity is going to get bigger. If you bring in the good stuff, that's going to get bigger. And, yeah. So, yeah.
Now, let me ask you this. When people get down, I think it's easier for some people to get back up than others. But one of the things that goes out the window is your focus. Like you said, you're focused on the bad stuff. You're focused on, how am I going to get out of this mess, rather than putting a positive spin on. So how do people do that when they are so deep in the weeds? How do they get out?
Yeah, well, I'm going to tell you, it's human nature to focus on the negative. Okay. Like if you come up to me and say, hey, Rod, how you doing? And I'm like, oh my God, I am freaking fantastic. Life is amazing. You will take a few steps back and say, okay, Rod's off his meds. But if you came up to me and said, Rod, how you doing? I said, oh God, my back is freaking killing me. I just lost 10 grand in the market. Oh, woe is me. You'll put your arm around me and say, oh, I feel you, brother. We connect through pain. It's terrible.
I know.
Okay.
I know.
And here's the other thing, when something negative happens to you, it's very easy to allow it to become your story or your identity. And I'm going to be honest, it was mine for a little bit. Now I just use it to motivate and whatnot. But it was the woe is me for a while. Yeah, woe is me. I mean, you got to push past that, because I'm going to tell you that if you focus on that negative, it's going to stay with you and get bigger. They asked Mother Teresa when she was alive if she was anti-war, and she said, no, I'm pro-peace. It's such a simple twist, but you see the point there. And so, I'll get students that say, how do I get out of student loan debt? And I'm like, wrong question. How do you make so much money that debt's freaking irrelevant, right? So it's really important that you pay attention to that. And so how do you do it? How I did it when I lost $50 million was I reassociated with what I wanted and why I wanted it. And I had to reassociate with that. And so if you come to my boot camp, I've got one coming up the end of July, and I'll give your peeps a hell of a deal if they want to come. But if you come to my boot camp, the first thing we do for an hour and a half is get very, very clear on what you want and why you want it. Okay. Because how are you going to get anything if you don't know what it is, right? You have to have clarity around your goals. And so, we do this goal setting session on steroids. And, if you'd like, I can kind of give a brief rundown on it for those that don't want to hear it. All right, I'll do that.
I would love that, because goals, people tend to have vague goals, or even if they say, I want to make $100,000. Okay, well then how do you do that?
Right. Well, let's talk about it. But before I do, I want to circle back to something you said about focus, just real quick. And that is, I told you that the most successful people on the planet have the highest level of focus. And I listen to a couple of podcasts. I listen to Joe Rogan. I listen to Tim Ferriss, and I got to live in a conservative for the most part. And Tim Ferriss's, I get excited about my 13 million downloads. I think he gets that a week, but he interviews the best of the best in the world at what they do. So the best athletes, the best movie stars, Jamie Foxx and Michael Phelps, Ed Norton, Hugh Jackman, billionaires like Ray Dalio. He's had Arnold on there. I mean, just the best of the best in the world in their respective fields. Mm-hmm. And he dissects how they achieve that success. And I started to hear a pattern. They all meditate. What does meditation enhance? Focus, right?
Focus.
Yeah. So just keep that in mind, guys. And I don't know about you, but I'll be sitting there watching a movie and my knucklehead, I'll be scrolling through social media while I'm watching a movie. And here's the problem with that. Your brain is making these micro decisions every split second, and that kills your focus. And I'm guilty of it too, but just beware of that. Okay. All right. So goals. So this is a process that I take my students through, and I do this at my boot camps. But I also did it on January 1st on my Facebook page. And if you DM me on any social channel, I'll send you the link to it with music. And I've got a free guide you download. And it's not a sales pitch. You just watch, and it's something great to do with your kids or with your spouse or whatever. But I'm going to describe the process to you. But I'm on every social channel. They've even got me on freaking TikTok now. So whatever channel you hit me up on, you'll get me. And just say goal setting workshop, and I'll have my team send it to you. Anyway, but let me describe it. So you want to pick an hour when you have a lot of energy, okay? You make sure you're well hydrated. You don't do it after a big meal. And then you sit down and write down everything you want in life, okay? Not just the New Year's resolutions that are forgotten by February, but I mean everything. The houses, the cars, the boats, the jet skis, the planes, the jewelry, the clothing, all that stuff. Nothing wrong with stuff. Write it down and take the lid off your brain. Imagine if you write it down, you're going to get it. If you want a private island, a jet, a yacht, write it down, because that starts the process. And there's nothing you can't do, be, or have. You work hard, you set up a plan, and you take action. There's your options are limitless. Okay. But write down all the stuff. See, just writing these things down triggers something in your brain called your reticular activating system. And what that is it's a subconscious filter. You're not aware of it consciously. Your brain will point you in the direction it thinks you're interested in. And the greatest example of this is when you first buy a car. You never really notice them. You buy the car, they're everywhere. Were they there before? Of course they were. That's your reticular activating system. And it's the same thing with your goals. So just writing them down starts that process. And so write down everything you want. Write down how much cash flow you want from your real estate, say in 3 years, and again in 10 years. Write down how much money you want in the bank and in your, hit the fan fund in 3 years and 10 years. Write down, and by the way, if you're analytical, don't stop and analyze it. Just keep writing. Okay. You can always scratch it out later, but you don't want to lose the momentum. You want to keep going. You also, and make sure you're breathing. Make sure you're breathing. Don't get all hunched over, because the energy is a critical piece of this. And then once you can't think of another thing from a material standpoint, I want you to write down everything you want to do in your lifetime. So it's not just the stuff. By the way, guys, most people will spend more time planning a birthday party than they do designing their lives. This is designing your life, okay?
That's how important. True.
That's how important this is, okay? So write down all the things you want to do, the places you want to visit. I have a travel vision board behind my green screen here. I've got friend that's climbing every mountain over 14,000 feet. In fact, I think he's done. Me, I jumped out of a perfectly good airplane a few years ago. I'll never do it again, but it's off.
Say, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, right. The bucket list items, all that stuff, write that down. Okay. And then write down everything you want to learn in this lifetime. Okay. So, if you want to learn a foreign language, write that down. If you, want to learn multifamily real estate, for God's sakes, come see me. I'm going to be in Denver, July 28th, 29th, 30th, and 31st, 3-day boot camp. And I'll give you a code where you can come for $197 for 3 days without a sales pitch. No big sales pitch. I talk about my coaching for about 30 minutes, and the rest is freaking full on drinking through a fire hose, though. I will say that it is absolutely bring your A game, because it's a lot, but 3 days. But anyway, if you want to learn that, come see me. But regardless, write down what you want to learn in this lifetime. Okay. Then lastly, write down who you want to help. We'll do more for others than we'll ever do for ourselves. And guys, this is the fuel. This is what gets you to get your butt up early to make this happen, to stay up late, to work Saturdays, to grind for a few years like most people won't. So you live the rest of your life like most people can't. Okay. So write down who you want to help. Like I bought my parents a house here on a canal when my dad was alive, bought him a car, took him on cruises. Who do you want to do things for? Write that down. Okay. Once you can't think of another thing, I want you to put a time limit on each goal. Put a number by each goal, how many years it's going to take you to achieve it. And there's no perfection here. Don't overthink it. Just guess. A 1, a 3, a 5, even a 10 or a 20. Recognizing that as human beings, we will overestimate what we can do in a year, and we massively underestimate what we can do in 5, 10, 20 years. And I'll give you an example of this. Now, I'm going to give you some personal examples. Please know this is not me bragging, okay? This stuff doesn't even interest me anymore, but I want to inspire you, okay? So that's why I'm going to bring some of my personal stuff up. So the first example here is when I was 18, I always knew I wanted to live on the beach, and there's no beach in Denver. And so, I'd visualize the palm trees and the sand and the surf. And 20 years later, I built this $8 million, 10,000 square foot home on the beach. And it was unthinkable when I was 18, but I made it happen. And so my point in that is, don't limit yourself. Whatever you want, even remotely, where your brain can't even wrap around the possibility of getting it, write it down. It'll start that process. But anyway, put a time limit by each goal, okay? Once you've got a time limit by each goal, the next step, and this is a couple more quick steps. I want you to pick your number one goal. I mean, that goal, when you get it, you're like, oh my God, this is amazing, that goal. Okay, put it on a separate sheet of paper. Now, if there's 2 or 3 that are equally exciting, just pick one. And we're talking about the goal that you've arrived when you achieve that goal, okay? All right, then I want you to pick your top 3 one-year goals. Put those on a separate sheet of paper and leave some room in between them. And I'm going to tell you right now, at that point, you are ahead of 99.9% of the people on the planet. Like I said, that'll do a New Year's resolution that's forgotten by February 15th. But there's a couple more quick steps. The goals are important. You need the goals, and you need to create what Napoleon Hill in his book, Think and Grow Rich, calls that burning desire, right? You need to create that. That's how you push through that fear and those limiting beliefs and get uncomfortable. And so you've got to write down why each one of those goals is an absolute freaking must for you to achieve. It's not a should, okay? It's an absolute must. And so you're going to use emotionally charged words as well. Words are incredibly powerful, and you want to use them. Words like beautiful, amazing, incredible, magnificent. Those are the kinds of words you want to use in your description of your why. So you might say, so I can show my wife what amazing success looks like, or I can show my kids what it means to live a life of incredible abundance. So, we can have unbelievable freedom to do whatever we want, whenever we want, wherever we want, bring whoever we want, whatever's going to juice you, that's what you're going to write down. Okay. And so put reasons why underneath each one of those goals that has to happen, because it's the why that's going to drive you. You need the goals, but the goals are short-lived. They say the happiest days of a boat owner's life are the day they buy the house and or buy the boat and the day they sell it. You need the goals, but it's the why that's going to drive it. And so once
don't you think and Grow Rich changed the way you think about all of that? I love that book.
If you come to yes, I've given away thousands and thousands of copies of that book. I'm not exaggerating, probably 5,000 copies. Yes. So my answer is yes. It's a book you don't read once, you read it several times a year. Okay. It's like the pre-frame, the foundation for every self-improvement conversation since then. But anyway, so where was I? You've got the goals, you've got your reason. Okay. So you're writing your whys. Now, once you've got your positive reasons why, you need to put some pain in there if you don't achieve the goal. And I mean, make it freaking hurt. So I don't feel like a failure. So I don't fail my husband or wife. So I don't fail my kids. So I don't live a life of regret. Make it hurt. Why? Because we'll do more to avoid pain than gain pleasure. And again, this is that fuel to get your butt up to make this happen for yourself. Okay. And so, I'll tell you a story. There was this nurse in Australia, a hospice nurse. So she took care of patients when they were about to die. Her name was Bronnie Ware. And she asked him a question, Sharon. And the question was, do you have any regrets? And she wrote a book about it. It's called The 5 Regrets of Dying. You know what the number one regret was? not living the life I could have lived, living someone else's life, not doing what I know I'm capable of. Guys, I cannot think of anything worse than that. So, if you're one of these people that fears failure, I'm going to tell you, fear regret much more. Fear being in the same place you are now a year from now, unless you absolutely love where you are right now. We actually fail our way to success. I'm going to tell you, I don't call my failures failures. I call them seminars. That was a $50 million seminar. It was a big seminar. It was an expensive freaking seminar. But I've built 27 businesses in my career. I'm a bit of an entrepreneur. Several have been worth tens of millions of dollars. Most have been spectacular flaming seminars, okay? Because we fail our way to success. It's never a failure unless you don't get up or you don't get the lesson. An entrepreneur or a real estate investor is like a shark. We only die if we stop swimming, okay? So you got to keep moving. But anyway, so you've got your positive, negative reasons why. Last thing is you must get pictures of your goals or make declarations. I'll give you some examples. A public example, Jim Carrey, the actor, the comedian, wrote himself a check for $10 million when he was flat broke. And he would go up by the Hollywood sign. He would visualize cashing it. And that's how much money he made for Dumb and Dumber. I'll give you another more recent example. Demi Lovato, the singer, when she was unknown about 12 years ago, posted in social media, one day I'm going to sing the national anthem in the Super Bowl. Not this last one, the one before. Go see who sang the national anthem. I'll give you some personal examples for me. When I was 18, I figured I had to have a 4-door car to show people houses, right? So I got this bone freaking ugly Ford Granada bench seat in the front, just a real piece of what. Well, the guy that initially taught me about mindset and psychology, I was dating his daughter, and he had 2 Corvettes, and he let me take her out in one. I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. So I got a picture out of a magazine. This is before the internet. I got a picture out of the magazine, put on the visor of that bone ugly Granada. Every time I sat in my seat, it was right there in front of me, a picture of a Corvette. Within a year or two, I had a beautiful Corvette. I'll give you a couple more examples. Please, again, I'm not bragging. This stuff doesn't even interest me anymore, but I want to inspire you. Okay, so this is when the TV show Magnum PI was out. I'm sure you remember that one.
I love that. Yeah. And the new version, I like that one too.
No, I didn't even know they had a new version. Wow. Okay, I'll check that out. Well, the actor was Tom Selleck. He's a detective in Hawaii, I think, and he drove a Ferrari 308, and that was the first time I'd seen an exotic car. And I'm like, oh my God, look at that thing! And so I got a picture of that actual car, put it on the visor of my Corvette. And within a year or two, I had a Maserati look just like it. Last example. I'm the guy that always wanted a Lamborghini. Okay. I would visualize them, and I had posters in my room, and it was the Countach was the make back, or the brand back then. But what's interesting is my son, when he was 9 years old, had collected a bunch of exotic cars. He had Porsches and Ferraris and McLarens, and he had the exact same color and style Lamborghini that I ended up getting, which I wrecked. But anyway, so get pictures. In fact, I'll show you something. Do you put these on YouTube or just audio?
Oh, yeah. No, both.
Both? Okay. So this is my planner. Okay. Yes, I use a paper planner. I'm a bit of a dinosaur. In the back of this thing, you too, yeah. In the back of this thing, I've got pictures that have been in here for 22 years. Okay. They're in plastic. My kids are 26 and 30. These are when they were young. These are pictures. These are my gratitude pictures. There's a reason these are in here. Everything you bring into your life through manifestation, visualization, prayer, whatever, happens through gratitude. So my first pictures are my gratitude pictures. Okay. This is very important. Behind my green screen, I've got a vision board that's just gratitude. Okay. And because that's how it all starts. That's how you bring this stuff into your life. Okay. Then I've got pictures of the things that I wanted. That house on the beach looked just like this top picture. Before I built it, I had 10-foot high glass like that, 80 feet wide. I had travertine floors. Now I lost that house and all the craziness. I live in a compound now. I've got 6 buildings. I've got a big main house. I've got a 2-bedroom guest house on the water. It's beautiful. I've got a media building with a theater room and a big exercise facility. I put a video studio up above for my virtual events because I had to go virtual with COVID. Although this next one in Denver in July is live, but I've got an incredible, it's a compound on the water. And because God's got a sense of humor, I can see my old house across the bay. It's literally right across the bay, the one I lost. But look at the pictures there, Sharon. You can see the white walls, those white stone walls. Okay, that's my backyard. See the white stone wall there? It's the exact same wall. It's just crazy how this stuff works. And then I've got, pictures of stupid crap like watches. I've got a few $100,000 worth of watches. That one's still a vice. I still have that one. But then, the Lamborghini before I ever got it, the Rolls Royce, the Bentley, all the stuff that I thought was important at one time that I got because I have pictures. So guys, I know I've probably lost a few of you are like, oh, come on, get on with the real estate stuff. This is more freaking important than the real estate stuff. Okay. This is what gets you to actually take action. You know, when I immigrated this country, my mom, well, I got thrown right into school. I didn't speak English. Okay. And I found out what bullies were for the first time because I didn't really have much of a father figure at that time. I hadn't learned how to fight back. So I got my butt kicked regularly. And then my mom, proud Dutch woman that she is, thought it'd be a great idea to send me to school in wooden shoes and those leather shorts the Germans wear for Oktoberfest.
Yes.
So I got an ass beaten again. And then the bullies would chase me home from school and she'd chase them off with a fly swatter. Next day, another butt kicking. And so, you know, I came up with this belief that I wasn't good enough. In fact, I used to ask myself, how can I show them I'm good enough? And a lot of people have these limiting belief systems. I'm too young. I'm too old. I don't have enough money. I don't have enough time. I'm not smart enough. I'm not analytical enough, or I'm not good enough like mine. And guys, there's a reason the acronym for belief systems is BS, because 99.9% of them are BS. They're just something your brain thought was factual and it's not. So if you have one of these, you know, BS belief systems, bring it out into the daylight. Look at it with your adult rational mind. You know, like I may have told you earlier, I was afraid to even raise my hand in class. I was so embarrassed of being humiliated. Now I speak in front of thousands of people a year. We'll probably have 1,000 people in Denver for that event. And you know, so I had to do that. I had to pull in the daylight and recognize that anybody that would reject me just didn't know me, you know, that I'm a gift from God. And if they didn't know who I am, that they've got their own BS going on, you know, and I had to realize that, but you've got to pull it out in the daylight, look at it rationally. And if you do that enough times, I promise you, whatever limiting belief you have, it'll go away. And it's important that you do that because they hold you back. And so, you know, that's why you've got to have that burning desire. That's why the goals are so important, because you have to be able to push through those limiting beliefs. You have to push through that fear. We all have fear, you know, and so that's how you do it. So anyway,
you mentioned meditation, you mentioned gratitude. I'm a big believer in all of those things, and vision boards. I know that they work. Do you have a daily routine that you follow?
Yeah.
Does that
I have a morning routine.
What is a morning routine? What does that look like?
Well, I have a morning routine. I will tell you, I interviewed Hal Elrod on my podcast. He wrote a book called The Miracle Morning. Yeah, beautiful guy. And a lot of and I gift that to my students. And let me, while I'm on that tangent, you know, if you haven't read the book, The 5 Love Languages, make sure you get that book. I got to interview him as well, because everybody feels love differently. And it talks about that. It's very powerful. My love language is gifts. So I gift a lot of gifts to my students, books. And one of them is the Hal Elrod's book and The 5 Love Languages. And I'll give you a couple more if you're interested in books. Another one is Turning Pro by a guy named Stephen Pressman. Stop being an amateur, become a professional. Everybody starts as an amateur, Turning Pro. Another one is The Slight Edge, about those little decisions you make every day that traject your life up or down. Gary Keller's One Thing is another great book. Sorry, I kind of went off on a tangent there. But
we have the same reading list.
Yeah. Okay, good. My morning routine is, and it's very brief. Sometimes it's 3 minutes. I will sit in this recliner behind my green screen here, or I'll just sit on my bed, or sometimes lay down, and I'll just do gratitude. Do gratitude for my supermodel, beautiful wife, for my, you know, more beautiful on the inside than the outside, my kids, my foundation, my coaching students. I'll just do gratitude, but then I'll do gratitude for the things that I want as if I already have them. And I know I lost a few more of you there, but I've gotten emotional being grateful for things I don't even have yet. Why? Because it freaking works, guys. Okay. This is how I had 50 million to lose, and how I got back to the success that I have today is by doing this stuff, because it absolutely works. And, you know, and I do a lot of other things, you know, so let me mention a couple of them real quick. I believe in I am statements. Okay. Anything you put the words I am in front of is an identity statement. Like I'll show you on my wall here. I've got, I am the best in the world at what I do. I'm a business genius. I am success. And again, these are not like braggadocious statements. That's what I'm aspiring to be. And, you know, I will tell you, there's no greater force in the human psychology than the need to remain consistent with how we identify ourselves. So get some of these. Like I've also got, I am focus, I'm determination, I am health and energy. And I'll yell these out at the top of my lungs when I'm exercising in my room. I used to do it running down the street. In fact, my kids help out at my live events, and that's the question they get most often. Did he really do that shit where he yelled that stuff? Yeah, he did. Yeah. And so, Because it works, guys. Those are called affirmations. And when you do that, you build up, it builds into your psyche, those things that you're affirming for yourself. But let's talk, if you don't mind, I'd love to talk about a couple more things that I utilize to get past losing it all, if you'd like, Sharon.
Yeah. This kind of goes in with a question I was going to ask you.
Well, go ahead and ask the question.
How do you get mentally tough after something like that? How do you do that?
Those affirmations are the best way. I am courage. And then you say, and you emphasize different words. I am courage. I am courage. And you just do it and you keep doing it. And it just gets into the fiber of your being when you do that and you own it. And it's very effective. I know it sounds spoofy, but I'm just telling you, it freaking works. So, these are strategies that work, and you put these signs around you. You put pictures of the things that you want to motivate you, and you may not even notice them after a while, but they get into your subconscious. Your brain sees them, and so they're incredibly powerful. Vision boards, incredibly powerful. I had John Asseroff on my show, the guy that in The Secret that talked about vision boards and probably responsible for millions of people getting them because they work, guys. If you don't have a vision board, you're making a huge mistake. And if you're thinking, I'll keep it in my head, if you're in your head, you're dead. You need it. You need pictures. You need visuals. You need to write these things down, and you need to kinesthetically feel them. Okay. Very, very important. That's how you get this stuff. But a couple other things that are really important as it relates to success, as it relates to achieving success. We talked about the first step. You've got to take that first step. I think we talked about that when I interviewed you. That first step, it's always the hardest one.
It's the hardest,
especially for you that are analytical. You have to check off every box before you make a move. and Dr. Martin Luther King said, you take that first step in faith and the next step will be revealed. Lao Tzu, 1,000 years ago, said the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, but you got to take that first step. And that action actually mitigates fear. So, that you get that forward momentum. You can drive all the way across the country at night. It's only seeing 50 feet in front of you with your lights. And you'll make it. Now, you may have some obstacles, but other people have done it before you, and you'll make it. It's the same way with your goals, guys. There's nothing that hasn't been done already, nothing you can't do. You just have to take that first step. But even before then, actually, I kind of got ahead of myself. You have to make a decision. Okay. You have to really decide. And when I say a decision, I mean, like, if you're going to attack the island, you're burning your ships because you're taking their damn ships home. Okay. That's a decision. It's all in. Okay. It's not a 1 foot in, 1 foot out sort of thing. And, the Latin root for the word decision means to cut off. You're literally cutting off any other options. So you got to make that decision. Then you've got to take that first step. But then another critical piece is your peer group. I remember when I was losing everything in 2008, I was in Tony Robbins' Platinum Partnership. And that's a mastermind group. I've been in lots of masterminds, but I was in his, and I was around people that were thriving in the crash. They're like, 50 million, get up, pussy, get back to work, go make something happen. They're like, you're not going to whine to me. Okay. That's who you need to be around though, guys. You want to be around people that aren't afraid of your success, that aren't afraid, aren't going to be jealous of your success, or, fearful of losing you, or afraid that they're going to feel like less than if you're successful. And there are a lot of those people out there, and sometimes they're family. Okay. That's when it's really challenging. And I'm going to tell you, love your family, but choose your peers, be proactive who you hang out with, I think that's why my warrior mentorship program. So I've got coaching students, and I'm real proud of something. They now own somewhere between 60, 70,000 doors. I've only been teaching like maybe 4.5 years. I'm super proud of that. Probably most proud of that next to my kids. And most of those deals were done together between my students because, that you want to be around people that think what you think is hard is easy. Right. And so, if you're going to play tennis, you want to play somebody better than you or worse than you. I mean, the answer. So, get in these RIA groups, like Sharon's got a great one, and these meetup groups, and meet people that want success, that are going to validate your success, aren't going to be afraid of it. They'll encourage you. They'll, and that's the dynamic we have in that warrior program that I talked about. But by the way, if you don't mind, let me mention my boot camp real quick.
Sure.
If you're interested, I have a 3-day live boot camp. Not a big sales pitch. Again, I talk about my coaching for maybe 30 minutes. You're not obligated to talk to my team if you don't want to. It's no big deal, but it's no big deal. And in fact, I don't even talk about the program, but it's 3 full-on days of training. And I mean, it is drinking through a fire hose. We go through every aspect of the business, building a team, finding a market, evaluating a market, finding a deal, evaluating the deal, raising all the money you need for your deals, financing them, syndicating, joint ventures, property management. I have 3 panels every day. From there'll probably be about $2 or $3 billion represented by the panelists on stage to answer questions, and it's a hoot. And again, I spend a lot of time on mindset, so you actually take action with what you learn, right? And so, if you want to come, it's right now. The ticket's $197. And if the price will go up to about $700, if it goes up, just DM me and say you heard me on Sharon's podcast, and I'll get you that $197 price. But I mean, it's a no brainer. If you're serious.
What's the name of the boot camp, Rod?
It's called the website is multifamilybootcamp.com. If you text my name, Rod, to 72344, or text Rod in Denver to 72345, or go to rodindenver.com. If you can't remember multifamily bootcamp, Rod in Denver. If you remember that, that's the website. It links to that page. And if you go to the bottom of that page, you'll see hundreds of people that have come. I don't get complaints. The only complaint I ever get is the room too cold or the food sucked or something like that. It's never about the content, And in fact, if you end up going to Denver with me and spend 3 days with me and you don't absolutely love it, I don't mean like it, I mean freaking love the event, you let me know, I'll give you your money back. No problem. Okay. It's never happened, but there's a first time for everything. And I've had thousands of people attend this. And what I'm excited about the fact that it's in Denver, because that's, it's my old stomping ground. I spent 30 years there. And the last event we had in Denver pre-COVID, they brought my mom, she's 90 now. They brought her in a wheelchair. This is about 3 years ago. And my brothers were there, and she's the reason I got into real estate, as you know. And I'm behind the stage crying like a big baby because I'm like my mom, and I had to pull myself together to go out there. And then I broke down out in front of 800 people too. But anyway, so I'm excited to go back to Denver again. But anyway, yeah. If you text Rod in Denver to 72345, you'll get access to it, or you can go to rodindenver.com. But thank you for letting me plug that. It's a lot of fun. So
I want to make sure I've got this right. Rod in Denver to 72345.
72345.
72345. Okay.
Yeah. And or rodindenver.com. Yeah. But it's a lot of fun. And I know you talk to a lot of single family investors, and most people traject from single to multi very often because they want the cash flow. And, the single family realm is you can do it one off. I mean, you can do it yourself. Multifamily is a team sport. Okay. And there'll be upwards of 1,000 people there, incredible opportunities to network and meet team members and so on and so forth. And again, I help facilitate that networking. We get you grouped by area so you can meet people that live near you. It's a lot of fun. Just in general, it's a lot of fun.
Sounds fabulous.
Yeah. Thanks.
Well, Rod, it's been a pleasure. Thanks so much for coming on. And I'll put all the links. I think know by now you can find Rod everywhere. So just whichever platform you're on, he's a hoot. So be sure and check him out. Stop by his website, check out his event. And it was great getting to have you on today, Rod. So thanks for taking the time out. And thanks to all the listeners that come out week after week. I really appreciate it. So please share the show if you loved it. And I know you did. And leave us a rating and a review over on iTunes. I know this show is going to be one that's well visited many times over. And folks, I'll see you same time, same place next week. Bye for now.